Welcome back to the Millionaire Choice Show. And today we're going to have Dr. Jay Laguardia on the show. You guys are going to love him. He's got so much energy. You know, it's one thing to build wealth, but if you don't build wealth with the right mindset, the right heart, the right energy, it's not going to be a good thing for you. And that's why I'm excited for you guys to listen to Dr. Jay. He is the founder of Triple P Life, that is, and a host of the Power, Passion, and Prosperity podcast. So if you want to listen to another great podcast besides mine, you can go and listen to Dr. Jay. He's going to have a lot of good material for you guys because, you know, your life, you really want I think the goal is to live the most fulfilled life you can, you know, and I think that's one of my goals is like, how can I just live my max life, the best life I can possibly live? And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jay.
Tony, thank you so much. I was really looking forward to this after our first conversation when I had you on our show. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for today.
Yeah, thanks. Now, we've been talking about a lot of stuff, and, you know, my show's a lot about money, but I think you bring an interesting, I think, avenue to the show or angle to the show. To, you know, it's not just all about money. You know, in the back of my book, The Millionaire Choice, I talk about that, like more to life than money. And if money's your ultimate goal, you're going to be left very, very dissatisfied. Like it's not in balance. You got to have money in balance with the rest of your life. And I think that's a lot of what you cover, right? Like how you integrate those things.
For sure. Absolutely. The Power, Passion, Prosperity podcast is about empowering dreams, igniting passion, and accelerating prosperity in the key areas of life. And prosperity is just not financial prosperity. It's being prosperous in your relationships, prosperous with your health, with your physical and emotional well-being, you know, prosperous pursuing your passions, and also being prosperous, you know, in it could be finances, it could be your ability to share and give of your abundance to others. So it's a very broad but powerful position to be in.
Yeah. So when you do these things, help these people, are you doing any coaching right now? Are you working one-on-one with people, helping them to kind of, you know, get that mindset in place?
Yeah. So just a little bit of background. I practiced chiropractic for 25 years. I had 10 clinics, and we had one of the largest clinics in the country, and a lot of friends and colleagues would reach out and say, "Hey, how did you build such a large practice?" And in the chiropractic industry, it was, again, the top 1% practice. And so others were wanting to know, how do I do that? And so I started doing some coaching, and it was taking a lot of time, a lot of resources and energy. And I said, you know what, I'm going to charge for this, A, because it's incredibly valuable. B, it's taking a lot of my time. So I got into coaching about 15 years ago. And it's ironic, you know, when I started to practice at the age of 26, this is not a story for simply entertainment. It's actually a true story. Because we know how that happens, right, Tony? We were driving to our practice the first day after we had gotten licensed. And I remember, because my wife is also a chiropractor, I looked at her and said, I don't know what, but when I turn 50, I'm not going to be practicing any longer. And it's not because I don't have the passion for it. Chiropractic has given me everything, and I love everything about it. But I knew I wanted to touch more people in a grander way. I just didn't know what it looked like back at that point. So as I was in my mid-40s, and I saw how this consulting was going, then I saw how the podcast world was picking up, and I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. So we started the podcast, and we took our consulting from just chiropractors to small business entrepreneurs, and we created this brand, and it's grown significantly. So the answer to your question, yes, we do individual, we do group coaching, you know, and supporting people in whatever. If it's igniting their passion, reconnecting them with their passion, empowering their dreams, helping them find their dreams, helping them create prosperity in their life as they want, that's exactly what we focus on.
What I love about that, you know, is I'm helping people and teaching people about money. You know, it's very hard for somebody who's broke to imagine or believe that they can build wealth and become a millionaire. You know, I think I'm kind of a rare bird because I went from being $16,000 in debt and blowing every penny to not overnight, but pretty close to going, I think I can be a millionaire. And just people don't naturally make that jump. And I think one of the reasons is I think we're programmed, but also people's ability to envision something different from where they're living, you know, currently. That is not something that I think the average person can do. it's not like a skill set that I would say a lot of people have right out of the gate, right? Maybe it can be developed. And you're helping really put a message of a mindset, like you're shifting people's mindset. Do you see that being one of the first things, like as they're going on this journey to a more prosperous life, for empowering their dreams, igniting their passion, and pursuing their prosperity, is that mental shift?
Without question. And preceding that mental shift, I teach this program about evolve, revolve, and devolve. And statistically, 35% of our population is in a state of de-evolution. In other words, we are stuck in fear. We are stuck in lack thinking. We don't attract abundance in our life. We're literally, our tone and our energy is devolving towards ultimately death. How quickly it takes us towards that inevitable endpoint, difference from everybody else. But 35% of our population is in a state of de-evolution. Now, interesting enough, if we look at there is stage 2, which is a revolutionary type of stage, not so much as a combatant stage, but we're evolving. We're on this hamster wheel of life. And, it's just same day. It's Groundhog Day every day. Get up, do the same thing. And at the end of the day, we feel unfulfilled. We feel frustrated. Our life hasn't gotten any better. We realize that we want more. We just don't know what it is, or how do I get it? How do I get off this wheel? And that's a significant part of our population. That's 60%. And then you have 5%, which are in this state of evolution. And that's personal enlightenment, personal enhancement, personal growth. And those people are on that path, not by accident. They are intentional. In other words, that doesn't happen by accident. It's something that you do, that you pursue, but you have to be first aware of, right, what it is that you want. And then you have to surround yourself with the right people to make that become a reality. So our goal is once that person realizes, I want more out of life, irregardless, that's all they need to acknowledge, right? I'm not happy with where my life is, and I want to make a change. Then we dive into and figure out, okay, what is it that's holding them back? And in most cases, it's limiting beliefs and getting through the pre-programming of the subconscious mind that's been fed through them through their first 9 years of life, and breaking those synapses, those neural pathways that they reinforce every single day, and then helping them create a vision, eliminate those limiting beliefs, create some tactics and strategies, and then let's move forward and making it happen.
Yeah, I love what you said there, is like the little moment. It's kind of like, I'm going to translate it a little bit, like a little moment in time where you're making a decision to kind of do something different or to move forward. And what came to mind there is you don't realize how, I think a lot of people don't realize how one moment in time can really change your whole trajectory of your life, or one decision that you make can have such an enormous impact. And I use the case example is, it's a simple choice, right? Do I read a book and grow myself, listen to a podcast, whatever you want to do, or do I look at Facebook, or do I watch a movie? Things that, and the way I look at it is you're investing your time into something that's going to return value to you or multiply itself, just like you would with money. People on the show here, you've heard me talk about this, future millionaires. You need to learn how to make, manage, and multiply your money, but you can also do the same thing with your time. Learn how to make, manage, and multiply your time into something more useful, versus spending your time on something that doesn't return any value to you in the future. And you have to do that, like your resources. So your money is pretty much a return on how you use your time, right? If you got smarter, if you do the right things with your time, then your prosperity will grow. If you do the wrong things with your time, then you're just going to, I think things are going to slip away more. I am interested in this number though. I'd never heard that before. I love the way you put it: evolve, revolve, and devolve, and the percentages. I would have thought that the evolve percentage would have been a little bit higher. It kind of makes me sad that it's only 5%.
It is sad, but it's just the reality. And, I've done some updated research on it, and it doesn't really tend to move a whole lot. So I wish I could report that it was. But you had mentioned, and you're so right, life is all about moments. And then it's about seizing moments. But to do both of those, and this is one of the things I teach all the time, is you have to be in a state of conscious awareness, or what I call CA. And conscious awareness is being aware of your actions, thoughts, beliefs, and desires in the moment, right? What am I feeling? How am I feeling it? What is it that I want to be experiencing? Because 90% of our day, we live in our subconscious mind. It's a small portion of the brain called the reticular activating system. And it's designed to let us just wander through life in the subconscious. I don't really have to think about taking the dog out or emptying the dishwasher, right? I've done it a million times. It doesn't really require any conscious thought. But the point being is that when we're moving through our life and situations and moments come about, if we're not conscious, we're missing opportunities. We're missing inherent value in our life in which we can make, because a lot of times I talk about, right, it's that voice within, it's the God voice within that's inspiring us, that's telling us and maybe leading us in a different direction, but are we hearing? And the only way you can do that when you're consciously aware. And so those people who are in the top 5% live in a much greater percent of their day in conscious awareness.
Yeah. I've seen about something Bill Gates had said at one point, was that he takes, I believe it was a month out a year, maybe it's 2 months. I'd have to go back and look at it. So misquote, but where he just goes away and like spends time on an island to think, like to do. And that's what you're talking about there, is that's a conscious awareness time versus, just going through the motions of going in and collecting $1 billion from your software sales.
Exactly. And, obviously most people don't have the luxury to afford to do something like that. But, it's being intentional in the sense of each day setting time aside to work on you, right? I'm a big proponent of exercise. I've been doing it regularly for 34 years. So I set time aside 5 days a week to go exercise, to work out. And it's a high priority behavior because it's important and it's an important core value of mine. And if I'm going to live congruent, well, I've got to take the time to exercise. Well, so is working on my mind. And so I take time each day, every day, and set time aside to reflect, to meditate, to read, pray, whatever it might be, work through the habits of success. And over time, your mind begins to shift and change. And it's one of the ways we leave our old self behind. In Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being You, Dr. Joe Dispenza, my bad, Breaking the Habit of Being You, he talks about these habits of success, which I actually wrote about in my first book, is that when you apply these to your life over time, your brain is malleable through this process called neuroplasticity, where it literally changes how your brain functions. And that's how you leave the old negative you, which was me way back in the day, the angry, negative old me, to turn to somebody who has, I like to call it that I have great abundant powers. I attract great abundance in my life in so many things, but that doesn't happen by accident. It's because I've worked and practiced this for a really long time. But anybody can do it, right? I'm no one special. It's just understanding, knowing, and applying.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think about how that plays out in my life a little bit. I've got a couple things that come to mind. Probably share a few of them here. One of those was probably early on in my internet career when I had an opportunity to lead a team, right? And somebody had put me in charge of a team, and it was just a very bad team dynamic. And the three people I was given leadership over were like not having it. And it wasn't that there was a real problem with me. It was a problem with how it came about. And in that moment, what I thought, so I basically was a leader of this team for like 2 weeks. And what I thought about at that moment, and I got not demoted, so to speak, but taken out of a leadership role. And it was basically sold to me as, oh, we made a mistake. That shouldn't have been done yet or not done that way. And I'm like, okay, well, no big deal, because I'm a pretty, adaptable person. But what hit me in that moment, and the key learning was, if I was the type of person I needed to be, these people would have gladly followed my leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I need to set myself up so that the next time a leadership opportunity comes for me, that it sticks. So the first one didn't stick. And almost about a year, it's probably a year and a few months later, that opportunity came back around for leadership of that team. And I was able to take it again and actually able to keep it. And that basically catapulted my career for like 14 years. And my income was able to go up, like everything kind of grew from that. But it was a mindset shift for me around what was possible. And as I like to say it, when opportunity comes, you need to be ready for it. If opportunity comes and you haven't prepared, then you're going to miss that opportunity. So you have to take the time to prepare before it comes so that you can take advantage of it.
And the preparation is when you plant the seeds for opportunity, right? So our actions, habits, behaviors sends messages out into the universe that tells the universe that we're serious about what it is that we want to change or grow or improve in our lives. If we're not taking the action, the opportunities don't appear. And more importantly, we're not even conscious to see them. My belief is there's opportunities all around us when we're in this growth mode. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in an evolutionary role all day, every day, but you need to be taking time to work into to this evolution part of your being. And then, those seeds then start to come to fruition. We start to see all kinds of cool things appear in my life. I mean, I've had countless examples of that in my life. And I've been blessed with that, but also it's also fun to watch it in people we work with as they start to apply it. And all of a sudden, like, I've never had stuff like this happen to me. And I say to them, well, it's not by accident, right? It's because the changes that you made. And so I always start with, who do you need to become to attract in your life what you want? That's the first question. Who do you need to become? What habit or behavior do you need to change that no longer serves you? Which is at this time of year, it's a really wonderful question to ask. And I would suggest to your audience maybe to write this down: is what habits or behaviors no longer serve you that are incongruent with your highest self? Well, how do you determine what your highest self is? Well, the most simple way to do so is to identify your top core values. And a core value is, if I cut you, what bleeds from you, right? My family, my health, my relationship with God, my career. I love to travel. I mean, we can go on forever and ever and ever. But if you can create a list, top 5 or top 10, and then ask yourself, what habits or behaviors do I engage in that don't feed these? You can understand where you need to begin to, excuse me. You can begin to ask yourself, where do I need to make changes in my life, and what habits do I need to add?
Yeah, that's genius. I think people think, when you start talking about money and finance and wealth, I hate how you talk to people that don't have it and they want to become very dismissive of it. So, some of the things I hear, you were lucky, you were in the right place at the right time, or, wealth is bad, or, any of these number of excuses on why people don't have it, or money will make you do bad things. And the reality, none of that's true. It really just comes down to habits, right? A lot. It's like, what decisions are you making? Like, if you want to build wealth, you need to develop habits. Like, this is a repeatable process. That's what we teach you guys, future millionaires. It's a repeatable process. There's over 10 million households in America that are millionaires. 80% of them are first generation, just like me. I'm the first millionaire that I know of in my family. That happened because I set up a set of habits that were able to produce that result over time. And that's the standard process for anybody. Some people have better habits than me. They do it faster. Some of them take 5 years or 8 years. It took me 15. Other people take a little bit longer. Maybe it's 20 years or 30 years, but they still do it. And I think that's the thing that people miss a lot of times, is what habits are in your place. And I'll confess, I had some bad habits in the past, right? I think you probably have too, right, Dr. J?
No question.
Yeah. One of mine that's kind of plagued me forever was I was a video game addict, man. I mean, I hate to say it, man. I've probably logged at least 10,000 hours in video games, and wow. There's an old thing that says, if you spend 10,000 hours doing anything, you become an expert. Mm-hmm. I was pretty good, right? I was pretty good at some of the games I was playing. And I started that right after I got out of college, 24 years old, probably. Started playing games on a regular basis. And I've had points in my life where I would, get off that video game track for a while. At one point, my wife actually took my CDs. This is back when you had to have CDs to play video games. She would freeze them in the freezer, put them in the freezer, and put them in a block of ice. And so if I wanted to play, I would have to go thaw the ice first to be able to go play a video game, dry the CD off and stuff. And that worked for a little while until it didn't work. Her dad would come into town and we'd play together with him, and then he'd leave and I'd let him take the games with him. So I could only play when he would come back in through Nashville. And so about once every 3 or 6 months, we'd play video games, and I'd have to, get focused again. And, even more recently, cause I got kids, I got boys, love playing with them. And, I've been, with video game free now for probably 10 months, maybe. And, I'm just like, you know what? I'm 50 years old. It's okay, but I can find some other things to do with my kids. It doesn't have to be video games. There's other things that return better on your investment of time with your kids than even playing video games. And I think, that's a trap, but I think everybody does that. It's not, I don't feel guilt or shame about it anymore, but I am eager to redeem that time for something that returns higher value, right? On life. And but habits, that was where we got on that, is forcing habits. What are some of the habits you see that are kind of like, this is the basics, man, you got to do, these are the first foundational habits you put in place if you want to build a life of power, passion, and prosperity?
So the first book I wrote is called Change Your Mind, Change Your Destiny, The 8 Habits of Success. And I learned these from my mentors, and which, if we get a moment too, I'll share with you my secret formula for success. If applied every situation, I say guarantees your success. But one of these, of course, is mentors, as I alluded to. But if we were to start first, is the first habit is dreaming. As we get older, one of the things we stop doing is thinking about what's possible in my life. What can I accomplish? We become cynical with time and with age. And as kids, we do this so easily. It's just ingrained into our operating system of our mind. Little girls may think of being a princess or a rock star, maybe a fighter pilot, nowadays. And, boys want to be a football star or whatever, right? And so we create this fantasy in our minds, and it becomes ambitious for us. So we have to get back and take time each day, at least a few times a week, to ask yourself in a quiet moment, reflective moment, what's possible in my life? And just be quiet, be still, listen to the voice within. And what I suggest then is, if you start to feel and get some inspiration, is jot it down, write it in your journal, because the power between the mind and the hand, that kinesthetic process, reinforces the likelihood that it may become true. Plus, also seeing it on paper helps you kind of work through it. So we need to start dreaming more. Number 2 is mentorship. Is surrounding yourself with people who are already doing the things that you want to do. I find that in my life and for myself, I'm willing to help anybody. People regularly call me and say, hey, can we go for coffee? I want to pick your brain on something, or would you help me with it? Of course. I've had so many people who reached a hand down to help me up. It's my obligation to do the same thing. And not because I'm obligated, but because I just feel that's what we should do for each other. I think that a life well lived is one that leaves a legacy on so many others. That, as Robin Sharma said in the book, who will cry when you die, is they're not crying because you left, it's crying because of the impact you left on their lives. And so mentors is number 2. Number 3 is being authentic. So many people are living a life and have this veneer based on what they perceive other people think they should be doing or how they should be living a life. Could be your parents, could be a spouse, or just could be societal. I'm this, so I got to show up this way. And I have found that far too many people are miserable because they're living an inauthentic life. So find out what's authentic to you and pursue that, and do it, free. It'll really free your mind. And so number 4 is gratitude. Gratitude next to love is the second most powerful energy in the universe. It's difficult it's impossible to have 2 conflicting thoughts at the same time. So if you are in a constant state of gratitude, giving thanks for all things, not just the good, but the challenges, this is a higher level process that I've learned, is when I can give thanks for the challenges and the obstacles in my life. It does 2 things. Number 1 is it disempowers them. It takes the negative energy off them and allows me to figure a way to get around it, over it, through it, whatever it might be. And then also, when I give thanks, it helps me acknowledge this has been put in my life for some reason. something I'm supposed to learn from this, something that is going to help me evolve to the next level of me. So I have found this to be so very, very, very important. So gratitude. And the third part of gratitude is being grateful for things yet to come. And this gets back to the dreaming part, right? Once you create that image of what's possible and you start, I want to start my own business, and, I want to move to a warmer climate, and you start to create this image and vision in your mind. You give thanks for that appearing in your life. You're putting that energy out there that will attract the situations to make it happen for you. So those are the first four. And then we have affirmations, which is so important, right? And affirmations like a prayer. We have conversations with ourselves all day long. And we have, on average, neuroscientists say about 60,000 thoughts a day. And the average human being, 80% of those thoughts are negative. So we're telling ourselves
bad.
We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. Right. The shame that I feel for being a video gamer, the shame I feel for going hunting on a Saturday afternoon and not spending with my wife. All these. Go ahead.
I was just saying, let's park on that for a minute, because that is true. I think of myself, though. I think overall in my life, there are some things I feel shame and guilt about,
Sure.
And
it's normal.
But it's interesting. The people I've been around that are really like very, very successful tend to not dwell on that as much. So I wouldn't consider myself highly successful. I would consider myself moderately successful. Right. So I don't have $100 million net worth. Maybe now that I think my mental process, the way I think about things, has shifted in the last few years, last 2 or 3 years. So I have a dream, as you say, of, hey, I think I'm going to hit 100 million. I may even go past that. Because I have a purpose behind why I want to do that now. Before, I think I was just doing it because it was part of the habit or the process. Now I'm doing it for a specific purpose. Man, there's a lot of people that need help, and I want to use that money to help those people. So I have a purpose behind that, a drive. But at the same time, I don't know that when you think about the affirmations, I don't think I had a lot of things that I had that were negatively. I had a few for sure, but not a lot. Like, I don't think it was 80%. Let's say it was maybe 20 or 30%. But of people that I see that are very successful, I would say that would be, I wonder, and I'm asking you, is that a thing where they've been able to lower the amount of negative thoughts that they've had about, themselves or whatever? So they, then that allowed them, because they were able to lower that thought process, they were able to do it. Now, contrary, people that are not as successful I've been around, I would say you're 100% right. Maybe some of them are 90% negative about their stuff. So it's like this philosophy. Speak to that. Do you agree with that?
I do. And I think it speaks to what we had started this conversation with is, you have to be aware of the thoughts that you're having, the same thoughts over and over and over. Here's another interesting fact for your listeners that perhaps they really never contemplated before, but it's true. Scientific has shown this. We literally get addicted to our thoughts, negative or positive. Our brains create the chemistry, and it happens so frequently, a good positive thought or a negative thought, that we literally get addicted to that chemistry. And that's what causes our brains to fire in such a way to elicit the same dominant thought over and over. So if it's a negative thought, you've got to have the tools to break it. And essentially what I'm going through right now, right? To break that, to change that. Otherwise, this is where the concept of thinking positive goes off the rails, because I can say to you, Tony, man, you got to change your negativity. Just think more positive. And you can go, okay, I'm going to be conscious. I'm going to think of something positive, but it's transitory. It's not a permanent shift. That requires the work and the time and the effort, again, to change how our brain works, that neuroplasticity that I talked about before, where then it becomes your dominant pattern, and you can reduce that frequency of 80%, maybe down to 50. Even somebody who's been doing this work for 30 years, I still have negative thoughts, but I identify them, right? I ask myself, is this what I want to be present in? And is it really true? right? Or is this just old patterns creeping up, trying to weave its way back into my headspace? And then I choose something different. But again, I had to learn how to do that as well too. And it's one of the reasons why affirmations are important, because we can then put statements like, let's say somebody's struggling with their health, right? And so an affirmation would start as, I am healthy and fit, and I attract all good things to my life. And so, yes, it's one time, but if I can do that repetitively, it begins to rewire the subconscious mind. So that's why affirmations are important. You had mentioned something before about, the level of success, right? What you would consider a level of success. And one of the things that I really try to emphasize to people, it's not for me to determine or define what success looks like to you, right? It's for you to define it and then let me help you find and create that for your life. So for you, it could be 100 million. Some person, maybe it's getting to that 1 million. They'll feel like, oh my God, life is just amazing. Mm-hmm. And maybe it has nothing to do with revenue at all, money at all. Maybe it's just, you know what? I want to have an awesome family life that, a wonderful family and spouse and kids. And I want to give back to my community and be positive in my community. And the dollar amount doesn't so much dictate that, so that's the beauty, is people get to define that themselves. So the other habits, one is visualization. Here's the beauty about visualizing. The mind can't tell the difference between an actual event and one vividly imagined in great detail. So that simply means the clearer you become in your thought and the image you put in your mind, the mind already processes it like, well, it's already happened. And so therefore, it again creates the circumstances in your life to make it become reality. So visualizing, using all your senses is really, really important. I mentioned before about meditation or prayer. Every day we need to get still and quiet. Dr. Wayne Dyer said that God speaks in only one voice, and that voice is silence. And he talked about getting into the gap between your thoughts, where the space is, where the quietness is. And over time, over practice, it's such a wonderful tool to get inspired from the voice within. Besides, it has tremendous amount of health benefits in so many different ways. And then the final one is goal setting. The mind is target oriented. Without a target, the mind wanders aimlessly. And this is where a sense of lack of fulfillment occurs. So when I talk to people who, reach out to me and, I ask them about their goals and they don't really have them, or they're kind of nebulous. They can't really define them. Therefore, they have no path. And that's how they get on the wheel of revolving. And so goal setting, really understanding what it is that you want, why you want it, so important. When do you want to buy, and what do you need to do to achieve that? So implementing these steps completely changed my life. And more importantly, the people I've get to influence and work with, it's what I'm so passionate about, because it can just turn the flow of abundance in your life like you could never imagine. And not unlike you, I came from very, very moderate means, low middle income family, knew nothing about money, didn't learn anything about money. And so, I mean, if you could take me out of kind of the Northeast and in that environment and get figured out how to make it happen again, right? So you and I are perfect examples that anybody can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you did. I mean, what I love about your process here, like, it's so clear, and, future millionaires listening to this, but make sure you don't just take this, hear this, and then absorb it for yourself. That's the thing, right? So I'm a real big proponent on, hey, let's change the world together, right? So if you take what Dr. J just shared and you just keep it for yourself, that's very bad. Like, like that is not changing the world, right? Take what he just shared and see who you can pass that along to, or maybe it's a relative, maybe somebody you work with, maybe who knows who it is, right? Because I can think through everything that you just said, and even people in my own life, and I'm like, geez, I hate to say this on the show, but sometimes I talk to my wife and I'm like, you're always attracting, people with, negative energy, and part of that's because she's such a positive energy person, right? So people need that positive energy in their lives. but I'm like, can't you get around some people with some positive energy, right? And so she's pouring out all the time, but she's not getting reciprocated. And I think that goes back to where you were talking about mentorship. There's a whole thing about, you surround yourself. You're an average of the 5 people you're the closest to, whether that's their income or who they are, success levels they hit. And I think one of the early things I did it's kind of fits in your habits here under mentorship, but I hate to say it, it sounds bad, but like I like, you're not going where I'm going. Bye. Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm going somewhere else and you're not going there in the same direction. So I need to like I didn't consciously say you're holding me back, but I was just like, this is my vision where I'm going. You're not aiming in the same direction. So therefore we're not moving in the same place. And I think I was very unconsciously did that, which allowed me not to be held back. Right. They went on to another place. They found success there, but not where I was going. And I think that's very important, even in the mentorship. Like, surround yourself with people that are moving in a positive direction. By contrast, I know a lot of friends that did not surround them. They held on to relationships that they should have let go of a long time ago. And because of that, they're still in the same place they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. They haven't evolved. They've been in a revolution cycle or evolving for 40 years. And other than looking a little bit older, maybe not quite as attractive, they're still in the same place they were, in a lot of ways 40 years ago. And that's a sad thing for me, right? I want more people in that 5% in that evolution phase.
Tony, you said it really well. And I want your audience to understand this. If there are people in our lives for reasons, seasons, and a lifetime, we can kind of the same thing, devolve, revolve, or evolve. So the people in a lifetime are our closest, relationships, people who build us up in strong and noble thought, who love us unconditionally and don't judge us, even when we screw up. They realize that they're just as fallible as we are. And, they give us a pat on the back when necessary or a kick in the butt when necessary. And that's such a small group of people. Now, for those who are in seasons, these could be mentors. These could be friends as you're passing through school, or, a coworker, whatever the case may be. I want your audience to understand that leaving relationships is not a bad thing, because the universe abhors a vacuum. That means is that when we let go of something to attract something, let me rephrase that. To attract something new, we have to let go of something old. So 2 things. I have my clients do a declutter list, physically, emotionally, psychologically. So a declutter, what do you need to clear out of your house, your office that's holding you back, that's been sitting there for 6 months and you've never touched it? Get rid of it. Doesn't serve you. It's only creating stress, right? What habits, are you not exercising? You're eating like garbage. What do you need to clutter out there, declutter there and get rid of? What do you need to declutter in your kitchen? Food that's toxic and is not life giving, so on and so forth. And then relationships, right? And then the way that I help people assess that is, what relationships build you up in strong and noble thought, and what relationships hold you back or tear you down. And people know this instantly, like names and faces pop right into their mind. So they make that identification. Then they go, well, Jay, how do I do that? And so first of all, is you have to make a decision that this toxic relationship is not healthy for you. And that when you're around this individual, you don't feel at your best self. Or when you come home, you're just exhausted mentally, or you're frustrated, or whatever the case may be. So you make a conscious choice. Not that you're going to 100% eliminate, although sometimes you have to do that. You just have to cut it off. It's that bad. You have to cut them off. By the way, sometimes this is family too. I could get into that as well. Or what you do is you put boundaries. Instead of spending, 3 hours a week with this individual, I may spend an hour a month. And then ultimately what happens is the relationship begins to dissipate because you're going in a different direction. They're stuck in cement someplace else. And naturally the relationship begins to dissolve. But this is such a key habit, particularly again, as we're focusing on the end of the fourth quarter, moving into a new year, is going through these mental exercises to prepare yourself for ultimate success in 2022. And again, it doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, I love that. And you can't get to where you're going if you don't let go of something else. That's another way to say what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You got to remove something. I think about that, for some friends that I've let go, some, like I mentioned earlier, letting go of, video games had a season of life, probably held on to those way too long. I'm a tech guy, so, tech guys they fall in there. So you kind of connected. But interestingly, relationships with family, because that one can always be real touchy. I went through a season of life. This is going to sound hard. I'm sorry if I offend somebody that's listening today, but there was a point in my life where I had to look at someone who was very close to me and my family. And I'm like, look, my life's positive. I'm moving in a positive direction. Don't bring your negative energy around me. Like, I'm sorry if you've got like a lot of stuff, but this is a boundary. And I had never done that before, and there's a wonderful book by Henry Cloud called Boundaries. I didn't even know what that was, but I set up a boundary and said, hey, I love you, but we need to have some boundaries on our relationship, because I've got to move forward in this, a direction. And it's not that I don't want to help you deal with your issues, but some of those issues I don't need to know about. Like, I can't do anything for them. I don't need to bear that burden, so bring me things I can work on. And then I've most recently talked to a dear friend of ours, my wife's son, and going through a really hard time, and had issues where her parents turned against her and basically put her on the spot in a divorce court and took the side of the husband. And I'm like, how do you take the side of, not your daughter? You go against your own daughter. Like, how does that happen? And she came back and said, look, I've got to cut. Like, when you're in a bad situation like that family member is not helping you move forward. And it's a tough decision, but there may be other relationships, could be a boss, that's holding you back. But I love how you put that in very simple terms. So run through those again before we wrap up the show here. And then how are they going to get access to that? You said you have, name your book and run through those real quickly, that list of 8 that you described for us, Dr. J.
Yeah. So Change Your Mind, Change Your Destiny, the 8 Habits of Success for better health, better relationships, and more success. You can find it on Amazon. You can either search me, Dr. J. Laguardia. That's JAYLAGUDRIA, or you can go to, I forget to spell my own name, or you can go to our website, powerpassionprosperity.com. You can purchase this there, and it's all one word, powerpassionprosperity.com. And the 8 habits are, this is the easy way to remember, DMAG, VMAG. So dreaming, mentors, authenticity, gratitude, visualization, meditation, affirmation, goal setting.
Awesome. Jay, thanks for coming on the show, sharing with us, man. I wish you were here in Nashville so we could go hang out, man.
Well, I'll be there shortly. My son moved there recently, and we're going to come up and visit him in the not too distant future. So I'll reach out and we'll make sure I go have a cup of coffee.
I'm looking forward to it. Stay healthy in the season we're in.
You too as well. All the blessings to you and your family.
The Millionaire Choice Show shares the opinions and experiences of people and should not be considered financial advice. Before making your own financial choices, please seek out a registered financial advisor or certified financial planner.